reading any and all fantasy, romance, vampire books. Last night I was reading it and I was like, oh, I should check my phone. It's probably like 11:30. It was 2 in the morning. We're annotating off of vibes, it's not that serious. Let's do a reading update, but then I'm also gonna do like a little channel update as well. Hello my reading friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori if you're new. I'm so excited that you're here and I hope you're having the most wonderful day of your entire stinking life. I'm so excited for this video because I have been saving all of my vampire books for this specific vlog. It may need to be 2 parts because I do have quite a hefty list, but this is going to be my dedicated reading vlog for reading any and all fantasy, romance, vampire books. We are celebrating spooky season on this channel and we are celebrating hard. Okay, so let me run through. I'm not planning to get to absolutely all of the books on this list because I have quite a few, but these are the ones that are on my radar, kind of the pool of books that I'm choosing from, and we will just have the most fun vampire reading time. So the physical books that I have, these are all pretty chunky. This is my Carissa Broadbent stack. So I have Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent, and then I also have the Crowns of Nyaxia books, the Nightborn duet, books 1 and 2, which is Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I think that there is a novella that goes in between these two as well, which is available on Kindle Unlimited, as these are as well. So we will include that little novella in here as well. So we have 4 Carissa Broadbent books. I have Heart of Dracula. This is by Catherine Ann Kingsley. This is on Kindle Unlimited. It takes place in Boston in 1897, and our main character is caught between a war of the living and the dead. Oh my gosh, it sounds so good. That is also a series as well, so we will kind of like count those books depending on if I start it and want to continue with it. I have Blood Price by Vela Roth, which is the 0.5 book in the Blood Grace series. The Blood Grace series scares me a little bit because they're 700-page books and I hear that they are quite intensive in terms of the world building, and the writing style isn't the easiest to get through. So I'm hoping to read Blood Price, see how I feel about it, get a taste for Vela Roth's like writing style and that world and characters. This one is only 300 pages. And then I have one more that I will include on this list, and that is Death of the Dawn by Amanda V. King. This is the first book in the Spires of Dawn series. This one, I believe, is YA, and our main character is a healer in a village who has never ever believed in vampires until she wakes one. And because she's the healer in the village, she wants to protect her people. She doesn't want the vampire to feed on her people, so she starts giving her blood to this vampire. They form like a friendship type relationship, and then the relationship goes a little bit beyond friends. So we have that one. And then the last book that I have on my vampire TBR is Black Sunshine by Karina Hale or Hall. I never know how to say her last name. This is a book that I feel like everyone has already read. I just have it. It's on Kindle Unlimited. This one sounds a bit unhinged. It sounds like a silly, goofy time. You have to be along for the journey, along for the ride. Our main character, I think she's in college or thereabouts, and she's living in San Francisco, I want to say. She goes out to this club. She runs into this guy. He ends up being a vampire, and he like captures her, and then plot twist, she finds out that she's a vampire too. It sounds crazy, and I want to know like why everyone was freaking out about it. I honestly don't know where I want to start. The reason why I didn't give summaries for the Carissa Broadbent books is because I feel like these are very, very well known. So I gave those brief synopsises for the ones that maybe are a little bit less known. I kind of want to start here. I kind of want to start with Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. I was thinking about annotating this book, and I think it would be fun to kick off this reading vlog with a strong start. I already know that I love Carissa Broadbent's writing. I've heard good things. A whole annotation moment can be really fun. check-in. I am 50 pages in now, a little bit over 50 pages. I'm on chapter 8. This is going to be a non-spoiler vlog for any of the books that I'm reading, by the way. Apologies that this light looks like Heaven's Gates. My camera just does weird things with light bulbs. We've gotten a ton of world building so far, so I have started tabbing. A lot of these tabs are just for world building and details about our main character, Selena, and her, for lack of a better word, and everyone's calling it a cult, I'm also going to call it a cult. She's part of this like sisterhood that worships one specific goddess, and their culture is extremely interesting. Arakesin, I think is how you say it, but don't quote me on that. It's a very harsh and cruel sisterhood that she's in. They basically take their freedom, because you can't leave this cult unless you're dead, and they take their eyeballs, not like actually out of their head, but they use this solution over an entire year that slowly takes away their sense of sight. However, it gives them access to a deeper range of senses. So they tend to wear blindfolds over their eyes after their sight has been taken away from them, but they can see the world more deeply. And they know exactly what's going on around them. So it's not like she's at a disadvantage. What the other aspect that is very interesting to this cult that she's a part of is they're supposed to be extremely emotionally detached. Essentially, they are, I guess you could argue, morally gray. Like, they're not supposed to look for what is justice, what is right in a certain scenario. It is whatever their goddess is telling them is supposed to be. That is what they're supposed to do. So Selena received this mission. There's a vampire conqueror that has arrived in their country and is conquering their lands. It's finally starting to get to a point where their goddess advised that he is not on the right path. What he's doing is wrong, and it's time for them to now intervene. And these vampires, super interesting. We have met Atreus, I think, yeah. We have met Atreus, who is this vampire conqueror. Very interesting, the descriptions that we've gotten of him. He has horns, which I was not expecting. You know how in all romance novels we get like, oh, he smells like pine and snow and all of these things? Not Atreus. Atreus, he's given the true vampire, intimidating, creepy, ancient vibes. The scent of snow, I realized, was him. Like, he carried that piece of his homeland all this way across the sea. Snow and iron and a hint of salt. So he smells very elemental, and that gives ancient vampire, if you're asking my opinion. The world is definitely giving desolate, creepy, dark themes. Absolutely loving it. The writing is stunning. I'm really excited to read more. I'm gonna take a little bit of a reading break and make some food, and then I'm going to return to this because I don't want to stop reading. I want to definitely read a good portion of this tonight because I'm just so intrigued about where this is gonna go. Friends, I am now halfway through Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. Also, if this is the same shirt that I was wearing last night, we're not going to talk about it. I can't put this book down. I am having such a good time. I figured stopping at about the halfway point would be a good time for an update since I last updated you around the 50-page mark. So last night I was reading it and I was like, oh, I should check my phone. It's probably like 11:30. It was 2 in the morning. It was 2 in the morning. Falling into this world has been so fun, but also this is such a fantastically brutal and violent and bloodthirsty vampire world. I'm loving it so much. I'll stop saying that. I feel like I've said that 5 times in this one clip alone. The brutal descriptions of violence really add so much to the atmosphere. It's feeling extremely hopeless, desperate in a way, despairing. At the halfway point, we really haven't gotten any romance, and I don't even care because this, as an introduction to the world in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, it makes me want to jump right into Serpent and the Wings of Night. We're annotating off of vibes, it's not that serious. So I have a tab for world building because I did feel that in the beginning I was making notes in the book. There was a good amount of world building, which I think I talked about. So world building, I have a blue tab for him, descriptions and quotes, things that he says. I have orange for quotes or important things. I have green for vampy scenes, just like really classically perfect vampire scenes, and then pink for romancy, teehees, and flirts. I have been listening to some vampire ambient rooms. The ones that I have found that I've enjoyed, I will link in the description box for this video, just in case. That's my check-in. I will talk to y'all when I read a bit more. Good morning, friends. Apologies for the jump scare. I am starting to get ready. I have a very busy day at work today that I have not been looking forward to because I just have back to back to back to back to back meetings, which is never fun. But it does make the day go by really fast. So there's the silver lining. I owe you some updates playing the Vampire Conqueror and have started my next vampire book. Playing the Vampire Conqueror, I gave it 5 stars and I'm really kicking myself for waiting so long to read that book because everyone who raved about it, everyone that told me I needed to read it, y'all were absolutely correct. I loved it so much. And I needed time to process how to put into words like why I loved it so much because was it a fantasy romance? Yes. Did it have spice? Yes. Like, honestly, very briefly, but yes, there were 2 like spicy scenes. But that book was so much more than just a fantasy romance because I truly believe that Carissa Broadbent wrote that as an introduction to her Crowns of Nyaxia series. It was intended to give us additional information, additional backstory into that world. It just did that so well and it gave us so much detail and so much character backstory. Carissa Broadbent did say that the characters we see in Slaying the Vampire Conqueror do show up in the series later on, but the fact that they make an appearance and like we know so much about them, oh my gosh, they were going through some stuff and some things and we were just like along for the ride to watch them sort through all of their feelings. I love how they both helped each other unintentionally, and the way that Carissa Broadbent had the characters mirror each other took my breath away. Like, that was probably one of my favorite aspects of the book. I thought that the main plot twist at the end was a little bit predictable, but I'm not mad at it. It's not a thriller. I don't need it to be like the most surprising thing in the whole world. I was so happy with the journey. I was along for the ride. Loved every second. And then I started Death of the Dawn by Amanda King. I reverted back to my typical tendencies where I said, let me have a little palate cleanser before I jump into Serpent and the Wings of Night. I'm kind of regretting my decision. I'm not too far into Death of the Dawn and it's not bad. It's pretty okay. It just doesn't compare to Carissa Broadbent's writing. I think that the writing is very simple, which is fine. But after such a hard hitter for me, after such a 5-star, like a heavy 5-star, it's difficult to like follow that up. This book, we follow our main character, Lyra. She is living in a very small village and she's the village healer. She's exploring this decrepit old castle. She's honestly scavenging for anything of monetary value because she's trying to survive. They're not well off by any means. She comes across this crypt and she accidentally slices her hand. And by doing so, unintentionally, gives like a blood sacrifice of some sort to this ancient vampire, wakes him from his 96-year slumber, and he starts coming out and drinking blood of the villagers. She doesn't want to admit that she like woke him up and like made a big oopsie. So she bargains with him that she will bring him blood and like visit with him as long as he promises not to hurt the villagers. And he's like, yeah, if you bring me blood, I will not hurt your villagers. It's just like the most simple plot line that I don't know how much I'm going to continue to like it. Like, again, it's not bad. It's just very, very simple and like one tracked. There's no intricacies to the story so far. I'm finding that I'm a little bit bored, but I am only maybe 20% into the book. I will update y'all once I read a little bit more of Death of the Dawn, and hopefully I have some better news. Hi friends, it's been a couple days since my last update. I've definitely lost my steam with Death of the Dawn. I haven't given up on it quite yet, but I needed to just switch to something else, and I feel like I found a really good book to balance it with because they're just so different from each other. So no further updates on Death of the Dawn for right now. However, I started reading Lady of Rooksgrave Manor, which is by Catherine Moon. If you are familiar with this book, you know that it is so incredibly unhinged. Like, this is all spice, no plot. It's one of those. If you like Court of the Vampire Queen, you would probably like Lady of Rooksgrave Manor, except it's monster romance with a plethora of different monsters. I am going to include it in this vlog though because our main character's name is Esther. Rooksgrave Manor is essentially, what's like a nice way to put this? A girl's house. Esther is basically an escort. She used to be a maid in a bunch of different homes, but she has this reputation that has followed her around, and she gets an invite to become like an escort. It's very specific clientele that they cater to, which is these like wealthy monster men. So we follow Esther as she begins working. I can't talk about this book without smiling because it's so incredibly unhinged and just like so spicy, but I'm really enjoying it. So I think I said I'm a quarter of the way through it. I'm about 25%. Typically with books like this, I'm not an all spice, no plot usually, because it just gets almost like boring after a while. It's like the same thing over and over again, and there's no plot to really like tide you over, to be emotionally invested, things like that. Sorry if you can hear the plane. Basically each chapter is a different man and a different monster. The spicy scenes are all very different because she has different dynamics with these different people. So I'm really enjoying it so far, but I am quite early on in the book. We'll see if I am singing a different song by, you know, the 50% mark. But I thought it was a good balance for Death of the Dawn because that one is just, I'm still quite bored with it. But to be fair, I haven't read anything else since my last check-in where I was saying I was bored with it. But that one is so YA, it's just vampires, whereas Lady of Rooksgrave Manor, it has a vampire as one of her clients, so it does count for the theme of this vlog, but there's so many other monster creatures. There's one that's a sphinx, so I'll leave you with that. Let me give you some updates. I just ordered some pizza. I'm on my dairy-free journey, and I've been doing a really good job of it for the past probably like 6 months. But today I just had an absolute hankering for pizza. Going dairy-free is not as hard as I thought it was gonna be. The only thing that drives me insane is that I love pizza so much, and I haven't found good pizza with like dairy-free cheese. We're having a cheat day today. Everything's gonna be fine. I'm also having a Diet Coke, and I read to the halfway point, a little over the halfway point, in Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. There's like 5 guys that she rotates through, and this is just unhinged, like absolutely unhinged. There's no other way to describe it. And also, like, there's no other detail that I can give because it's just crazy. So I'm taking a reading break. I think when I return to reading, I'm going to read a little bit more of Death of the Dawn. See if I can get to like a better spot with that book. Maybe get to at least the halfway point in that book as well, and then see how I'm feeling. I am at the halfway point now with Death of the Dawn, and I am just like not having fun. Usually for me, even if it's a book that I'm not like super enjoying, I can find 1 or 2 things that I like about it, right? Like, even if I'm not there for the plot, I like the writing. Even if I'm not there for the writing or the plot, I'm there for the romance. Nothing about this book is working for me. I'm so bored. Nothing has happened. I don't like the romance. The encounters with Lena and Ansel being the vampire, they're still just like so awkward and weird with each other, and I think that's what's supposed to be charming about this romance, because it is supposed to be like a YA romance. But it's just like annoying because it's like they've been spending so much time together. At this point, she has been like staying at his castle. She like made up some excuse to like not be a healer in her village anymore, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna go to this other village for like a week, and then she just like hangs out at the castle with her vampire, and they still act like the most awkward people in the whole world. And it's like, you guys have been spending so much time together, and yet they don't know anything about each other. Tell us about just like anything interesting, because right now all they're doing is sitting in the library doing cross stitch with each other, and I'm like, this couldn't be more boring if you tried. And it's not, this isn't supposed to be like a cozy fantasy or anything like that either. Like, this is supposed to be a very vampire-y YA romance, like a friends to lovers romance. They're not friends, like they're just boring with each other. I just don't know what to make of it. I also feel like the writing style is very basic. Like, there's nothing flowery and descriptive about it. It's not gothic. It's not like anything. It's just very bleh. I'm really struggling, and I haven't DNF'd a book in a really long time. I've been so proud of that, but I'm really not having a fun time. I think what I'm gonna do is switch back to Rooksgrave Manor for a little while, but when I look and see that I still have over 2 hours left of Death of the Dawn, part of me is like, it's only 2 hours, just finish it. But then the other part of me is like, it's not worth it. I'm very disappointed. Good morning, friends. I have an exciting update. So I finally finished reading Lady of Rooksgrove Manor. I say finally. I read that book over like 4 or 5 days, maybe 4 days, but that feels like a long time for me because I usually just try to fly through books as quickly as possible to squeeze as many books in a reading vlog as I can. Let's do a reading update, but then I'm also gonna do like a little channel update as well, just like a little chatty update, because why not? So I ended up giving Lady of Rooksgrave, I always say Rooksgrove Manor, and I don't know why. I apologize. I ended up giving Lady of Rooksgrave Manor 4 stars. I really liked it. It was wild and unhinged and spicy in all of the absolute craziest ways. I think I mentioned I've read books before that are all spice and no plot, and I got really bored very quickly. I didn't get bored with this one because it felt like each spicy scene was kind of serving a purpose, and it wasn't all the same. It was not repetitive. I mean, she has like 5 guys on rotation, and then towards the end it's not just on rotation. So I thought it was really fun. The ending of the book started to get like a little bit more plot driven to set up, I think there's a second book in the series, I'm not really interested in reading a second book in the series. The plot, like, was not the reason I was reading that book, but I really liked the spice. I liked the relationships. I think my favorite relationships that she had was her relationship with August, who was the ancient vampire. He was a vibe. And then I also really liked Ezra, who is this like invisible thief man, because that was very interesting, and that was something I never knew that I needed, but it was just a really good time. 4 stars. I was not expecting that book to be honestly like higher than a 3-star. But back to what I was saying kind of about like flying through books and stuff like that. So I recently made a channel change, like a content schedule change. I talked about it on my Instagram a little bit, and I posted that I'm doing like reading sprints and stuff on my community tab on my channel here. So I ended up switching. I used to do 2 videos a week for like a very, very long time, and I did really love doing 2 videos a week, but I was finding with my reading that I felt like I didn't have time to really enjoy the books that I was reading, meaning I wasn't getting as emotionally invested. I wasn't really able to savor and enjoy each book. I had a lot of pressure that I was putting on myself to, like I said, like read as many books as possible in one vlog, meaning just like flying through the books to finish them, to be able to like give y'all thoughts on them. And it was getting to a point where that wasn't enjoyable, right? Like I want to be able to feel like I have time to read a book a little more slowly if I want to read it more slowly. I will also say in the past couple months, like work has started to get a lot more involved, and I was having a lot of difficulty disconnecting after work, and I would find that after work I would log off, sit in bed to read, and my mind would just keep drifting to work things. And then I would start to get stressed because I'm like, well, I have to read like 100 pages of this book to be able to give like an update or something like that. And that's not fun, and it was stressful. So I think that doing the reading sprints on Sundays and still being able to like read and chat with y'all, because I didn't want to just cut down to 1 video a week. I was like, then I'm not getting as much like interaction and like talking with my friends about books. After a little while, I can go back to 2 videos a week. That is going to be my goal, but going into December, I am still planning on doing my Vlogmas / Bookmas that I've done for the past 2 years. So if you're new to my channel, December, I typically do a video every other day in the lead up to Christmas. So that is a lot of content that I'm super excited for. I always love to do it because it's just like cozy reading, decorating together, baking together, wrapping presents, doing Christmas shopping, like all of those fun things. After December, I'm gonna be like traveling a lot next year. So I'm getting married next May. And we're getting married on the East Coast because that's where me and my fiance are from, and like most of our family is on the East Coast. So we're traveling in January. In April, beginning of April, that's when I have like my bachelorette girls trip, and we're going to New Orleans, which I'm super excited about. So traveling in April and then getting married in May, and so I'm gonna be like traveling in May. Those are the life updates, content updates. I think I finally hit my breaking point with Death of the Dawn, and I'm really sorry to say it because I only have like an hour and 45 minutes left of the book, but I physically can't like put myself through this any longer. And I'm gonna give some more coherent thought as to like why I'm really not liking this book besides it's boring and nothing happens. I got big ick. I showed you guys a couple quotes from this book. It's starting to get into the more like romance heavy part of the book, but there's this part where Ansel, who is the male vampire, takes her out into the woods. They're kind of like, he's like declaring his love for her. And then he goes, "Run," he said, "fangs glinting in the moonlight so I can catch you." And I was like, are we actually gonna get something juicy and interesting? And she goes, no. And he goes, please, he said, please, please, please. Ugh. Like, that gave me the biggest ick in the entire world, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I don't like the romance, I don't like the world, I hate the characters, I don't like them at all. You're telling me that an ancient, all-powerful vampire is begging this teenage girl, like a child, to, like, run from him through the woods so that he can have, like, his moment. That was just absolutely disgusting. So that's my breaking point. Hansel has been acting like this very weird, like, preteen boy, even though he's supposed to be, we'll say, like, in his 20s, right? He stopped aging when he became a vampire, and he's ancient, like centuries old, and yet he acts like a 12-year-old, which is so off-putting. But the romance really throws me off because there was never this flirtation, there was never this, like, turning point. The whole romance is supposed to be a friends to lovers romance. However, they were never even really friends. Like, I'm having a difficult time pinpointing when Lena decided, oh, I actually really like to spend time with this person. It really just seemed like this is love from proximity because she's being shunned by everyone else. She's not spending time with literally anyone else, and she's only spending time with this vampire, which seems very toxic. And then she just decides, oh my gosh, like, I think I like him. Bestie, you are isolating yourself and you think that you're in love or in like with this vampire because he's the only person that communicates with you. And it's not supposed to come off as a toxic relationship. Like, this is supposed to come off as like a really cute romance, but it's just absolutely not. I might even give this like a 1 star. I'm going to officially switch to reading Blood Price. I'm already actually about 10% of the way through. I was reading that book when I was getting my nails done. Still watching Gavin and Katie Coulson and Gabby's sprints. I think that they're so cute. They did, like, today is October 3rd, and they did a whole reading sprint theme of Mean Girls, and it's just crushing. I love it so much. So I'm gonna keep watching them, hopefully switch to a better book, and I will check in a little bit. I am 20% of the way into Blood Price, and I'm liking it so much more than Death of the Dawn. Okay, so let me give a proper summary for this book. We have an ancient feud. We've had 2 families that for generations have been feuding with each other, and there's forbidden love and there's vampires. I think that you say our female main character's name is Maria. It's spelled really weird, but I think her name is Lady Maria, and she has basically lost everything. The only family that she has left is her brother, and her brother is not doing a good job. He doesn't really know how to run a kingdom properly. The biggest thing that their kingdom needs is, like, food, and all her brother is worried about is, like, his swordsmanship and gaining allies, and honestly, he's just kind of a scumbag. So it's falling to Lady Maria to stop this bloodshed and try to keep the livelihood of her kingdom and her people going. Like, everyone is suffering right now. Lord Alcius, I think that's how you say his name, but don't quote me on that, is the enemy. And he storms the gates, but really he's just looking to get retribution for things that have happened in the feud. But when he sees Lady Maria, they quickly and swiftly fall for each other in the cutest way. This is written in kind of a medieval time period, so everything is very prim and proper, but the writing style really lends itself so well to a medieval time period and landscape. Alcius doesn't care about winning the war, but he would do everything to win Maria's heart. He secures her hand in marriage for an alliance that could lead to a lifetime of passion and really help both of their kingdoms. But her brother's retribution is swift, and Alcius's only hope is to become a human's worst fear, a Hesperine, which is basically a vampire. They're so sweet right now. Like, they're just the sweetest. I heard that this book does also have some spice in it as well, but I'm so caught up in this plot and just the setup of this romance. I'm really, really enjoying it. So I can't wait to continue. I'm gonna read a little bit more, but I need to start editing this vlog a little bit before I return to reading. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna try to read like a good portion of this tonight. I don't want to put it down. Like, absolutely do not want to put it down, which is a very good sign. friends, so I haven't read too much more of Blood Price, but I did get through their marriage ceremony, which was so sweet. Like, they're just so in love with each other. She has fully like transitioned to living in Alceus's kingdom, but we're at the point where their families are not agreeing about this decision. They're very against this decision. So tensions are rising, and it's to the point where like they're so perfect and everything has gone so perfectly so far that something bad is gonna happen. We also got a spicy scene like 20% of the way into the book, maybe 25% of the way through the book, which was shocking because I was expecting this to be a very like slow burn. They're both so gentle with each other, and their relationship is really building around trust and just like accepting each other for who they are as individuals, and it's so sweet that I was like really anticipating a slow burn. But we got some spice. We got like a whole chapter of it, and it was just the sweetest thing in the whole world. So loved that. And unfortunately, that's where I have to end the vlog. So I hope that you enjoyed, friends. If you did, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. I would love to do a part 2 of this vlog, so if you like it, please let me know. Let me know what your favorite vampire book is down below, any that you have read that you really have loved, and I will catch you in the next one, friends, and in the comments. Bye!